We're here. They started at the same time, kind of. Hello. Welcome. I'm here. It is Tuesday somehow again. Time is crazy. Weeks are minutes. Months are seconds. It's nuts. I hope you're doing well. I hope you are enjoying your singing practice. I hope you are making some things creatively. I hope you are taking time for yourself. I hope you are being nice to yourself above all else, along with you being a kind person to other people, because we know that you are if you're here. I hope that you are thinking about what is good for you as well as what is nice to yourself. And those are very different things sometimes. Growth, I talk about, I talk a lot on here about doing things in a different way than usual. I talk a lot about the patriarchy. I talk a lot about hustle culture and how we need to stop that whole thing and just take it easy on yourself. Because most of the time, people that come in here are way harder on themselves than they should be. And some people may take that as, well, how are you going to grow, right? If you don't hustle. You got to make yourself uncomfortable in order to hustle. And yes, I fully agree. Growth requires uncomfortability, but it does not require unsafety. And that's what I mean about like things that are good for you versus nice to yourself. Good to you and nice to you are different things. I think so many of us grew up with this idea of I gotta hustle, I gotta grind, I gotta do the thing every day, otherwise I'm failing. And if I mess up on the way, then that's not good or helpful. And this is what I mean about like how we were raised can be extremely on that end of the hustle culture, right? So, for an example, I am trying to get back into a harder exercise routine because I've been living on yoga and walking for the last couple of years, and all of a sudden it started to not work for me. My energy level started to pick back up again, and I started to feel like I go through phases in my body. Like I needed that yoga and chill time for a long time because for many years I hustled and I worked out so hard and I burnt myself out to the point of like digestive issues. And so the last couple of years I was just giving myself what I needed, that was what was good for me and what was nice to me. And now I've started to realize that my body needs something different, and that is okay, right? Just because it was good for me back then doesn't mean it's good for me right now, right? So now I'm realizing harder exercise. I need a more rigorous routine because of where my body is and where my energy is at. I have more energy back that I didn't have before, and it needs somewhere to go, right? Like I gotta let it out. I have to be in a place where I don't have all this stuck energy, right? I know that I have so much creative energy and mental energy, and I've been doing that. I've been creating this business. I've been writing so many songs, but at the end of the day, it's all up here, and my body was feeling left out. It had all this energy that it needed to go somewhere, and so the first time I went and got back in a pool to swim, I used to be a hardcore swimmer. The first time I got back in the pool a couple weeks ago, I was like on cloud nine. I was like, euphoria, this is everything. I love it so much. Endorphins are life. And then I started realizing, okay, now my body can finally feel a little more peace because it got all that extra energy out, right? And yes, of course, endorphins are a thing, but also muscle engagement. And I have learned this through Ruby Rose's program, through all of my learning about the nervous system and dopamine and everything, that your body has to expend energy, right? Muscle engagement is the best thing for your nervous system because when you have this fight or flight response, which is my default, it needs to go somewhere, right? I'm creating all these hormones, adrenaline and cortisol and things that are just floating around my body. And so I found myself needing to get that energy out, right? And so I'm going to bring this back to singing in a moment, I promise. And so it turned out that what I thought was being nice to myself, was giving myself a break from exercising, changed and evolved, and now was not being nice to myself and was not good for me. And so what was now good for me was adding in that harder exercise. And of course, I know myself, I'm going to go way too hard, way too fast. So I'm giving myself rest days, giving myself days where I don't need to go all the way, but I am making it a point to do what is uncomfortable for me. And if you've ever tried to start back a exercise routine after not doing it for a while, or start it for the first time ever, it's hard. It feels extremely uncomfortable. It feels gross. It feels like everything in your body does not want to do it. It wants to run the other way, and it wants to stay in bed and do nothing, right? And it's so easy to do that. Same thing with anything that you're trying to add into your life, like a singing practice, like performing on stage more, like belting more, right? It's going to feel uncomfortable, and it's going to feel out of your comfort zone. And that is the point. And you want to do it in a way that is not hustly and is not toxic and fake it till you make it and just go, right? We want to do it in a way that is safe for your nervous system. But on one end of the spectrum, there's the people who like go all the way, like I would, right? Balls to the wall, just freaking do all the things. And on the other end of the spectrum, there's the people that are like, well, I'm not able to do all the things yet, so I'm not going to bother, you know? And I talk about this a lot. Like, there's people who are on fire, and there's people who are like turtles. And it's okay. Both of those things are okay. I mean, look at how you're hearing that right now, right? Just like hearing it come out of my own mouth, it feels like I'm being mean to the people who are turtles. I'm absolutely not, because that's how my brain has been wired, right? And I'm taking a very strong look at how my brain has been wired lately. Like, people who are on fire, that turns to lead to us to think, sorry, words today, that leads us to think that that's a good thing. And the people who are on fire are correct, and they should be hustling and being on fire, right? But being on fire hurts. It's exhausting, right? Sometimes I wish I was a turtle person who took a little more care and hesitation and say no to things, because I do too much, you know? And I'm sure vice versa. People who say no to too many things wish they could have a little more fire in their life, right? So in this place with your singing practice, I always like to remind people that in order to grow, you have to sit in the muck. You have to sit in the place between where you are comfortable and where you are uncomfortable. I don't need you to get to a place where you're unsafe. Absolutely not. That's what the patriarchy does. It's like work your butt off and burn out in the process, right? But little steps at a time outside your comfort zone are the thing that's going to get us to grow. And we have to become uncomfortable. And we have to be okay with being uncomfortable. And uncomfortable is never going to be comfortable. But you have to be sitting in that uncomfortable space, right? So I talk about this a lot in very direct, like, technique terms with people who are working on mixed voice and hanging out in their bridge area, right? The place between your chest voice and head voice, where your chest voice tops out and you have to flip into your head voice. And this idea of like, it's not gonna go smoothly at first, right? It's gonna take a lot of time. It took me months of everyday work to figure out what my mix was doing, how that handoff was happening, and how to hang out in there, and how to make a smoother transition and a smoother sound. And believe me, it felt gross. I was making some weird sounds. And you have to be able to sit in that and not run away from those weird sounds and not run away from the uncomfortable muck of it all, because that's where the growth happens. And keep in mind, you have to be good to yourself about it too, right? Like, this is good for you, but you have to be good to you. I guess that's how I should have phrased it from the beginning. That makes a lot more sense. So you have to be good to yourself as you're being good, doing something that's good for yourself. So as you're practicing and hanging out in this mixed voice, right, this the place where you get all wobbly. This is a great example that you can apply to other parts of your voice, whatever it is for you. I know plenty of people who are working on low stuff and plenty of people who are working on just belting, and that feels uncomfortable. So wherever your edge is, hang out there. And that's the last place you want to hang out. I know. But it is the thing that is going to get you to growth. And it is the thing that is going to get you to be a more resilient person. And believe me, I get it. I've been waking up every morning and thinking, oh God, the last thing I want to do today is work out, right? I don't want to engage in that intensive a way today. I just want to be my yoga self. I just want to be flowy and walk, right? And some days I let myself do that because I know that I need rest. But other days, and you can hold me to this, I'm saying this for accountability as well. Like some days you just got to get up and say, F it, this is good for me. I'm not being unsafe. I'm taking a look at what my body needs today, and I'm not doing something that's unsafe so I can hurt myself, right? We're not doing that anymore. If you've done it before, it's a pattern that we are stopping, right? We are not overloading your voice. We're not overloading your body. We are just getting slightly outside of your comfort zone because that's where the growth happens. Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is when you're hanging out in your mixed voice, when you're practicing something that you don't feel good at yet, this is what I want you to say to yourself. Hey, self, I love you, first and foremost. You are safe in this space. You are safe to mess up. You are safe to make weird sounds. You are safe to be loud. And whatever applies to you the most. Hey, self, I love you. You are safe to do blank. And it's going to get a little weird, and that's okay. It's okay to sit in the muck. It's okay to feel out of your comfort zone for just a little bit. And I'm so excited to become the self that is on the other side of this. I'm so excited, right? That's where so many of us get this wrong. It's like, I'm so scared to mess up, right? I'm so scared to make mistakes. I'm so scared of the sounds that are going to happen, that are going to come out of my mouth when I'm practicing this. But the fear is what is causing you to stiffen up and is exactly the thing that is keeping you from making the smooth transition that you want to make. We're talking about mixed voice in particular, but again, applies to a lot of other things. So we are working on being able to sit in that muck and reminding our bodies that we are safe. And if you need to go in through the body, please do, right? Many, many bodily tools for this. Give yourself a hug, gravity blanket, as Ruby Rose calls it. Grab your wrists. Just remind yourself that you got you. And then say, yes, I am safe and I am doing this thing that makes me slightly uncomfortable because I know I'm excited about what's to come after that, right? I'm not scared of messing up because I know that growth comes after things that are outside of my comfort zone. Growth comes after the muck, right? In order to get to the beautiful field on the other side of that muck, you got to get through the muck somehow. You can't just hop over the muck or fly over the muck. That's cheating. You don't learn anything, right? If you had to go back through the muck, you wouldn't know how to do it. So it will only help you for the next time you have to go through the muck. You get better and better at muck sitting. And then every time you come upon some muck, you're like, oh, I've done this before. This is not a problem. I can sit in this muck. It's gross, but it's fine, because I know it's not going to be gross forever. And that is learning. That is growth. That is every singer ever deals with this, right? It's going to feel gross, and there's going to be moments where you're like, I don't trust myself to be able to make this sound. That's okay. This is why we're sitting in this place of untrust. And we're looking for trust and confidence even though we don't have evidence of it yet, right? The thing I want you to trust yourself about is that you can get back up, right? You can sit in the muck and then clean yourself off. That's where the trust comes from. It's not trusting yourself that you can do the thing that you don't know how to do yet, because that's impossible, right? We can't have trust for something that we don't have evidence for. I mean, I guess you could. I guess that's called faith, really. But if you're trying to have a smooth transition through your chest voice into your head voice, and you've never done that before, it's always been right? Your body is not going to release unless you remind it that you are safe, right? We got to go a different way. We don't have evidence, but we can say, F it, I'm doing it, right? I'm going to see what happens. So you don't necessarily need to have confidence that it's going to happen because you've never done before. It's impossible to have confidence with no evidence. So we're not looking for confidence anymore, right? This is the whole idea. We're not expecting to be totally fine and not nervous. We're expecting to have some nerves. We're expecting to have a little fear and say, yes, I'm doing it anyway. I'm going to try it and see what the heck comes out of my mouth. And I'm going to do that again in another minute. And I'm going to do that again. And I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it 30,000 times until those muscles learn to hand off nice and easily, right? My favorite way to do this is exactly what I was doing. Nice little slide over your bridge, right? Find your bridge. If you want some technical stuff to work on today. That part where it flips, right? You know it, you love it. We call it a crack or a break or whatever. I hate all those terms because it's so ridiculous. It's not a problem. It's not a flaw with your voice. Every single voice has this, right? You're switching from one coordination to another. You're adding a muscle and taking away a muscle. And that middle ground is where you have to learn to hold both of them together instead of just bailing. And this is what sitting in the muck means, right? You're holding these muscles together and slowly moving and adding and letting go of weight. And so you are releasing yourself into this place. So hopefully makes sense. You can do this over and over again. You can do it up and down. You can do and you can feel where that lies. So you get really familiar with that feeling. And then maybe feel into letting it switch a little earlier. So then you eventually start to smooth that out and you don't hear the switch so much. You still feel it because it's not just going to go away, right? This is how your voice works. You still feel it on the inside, but the goal is to be so, your muscles are so good at hanging out in this middle ground that you can do it, no problem. So that it becomes easy to just, not perfect, but we do it, right? Every day. That's honestly, I'm telling you, this took me months. So give yourself some grace, give yourself some slack, give yourself some muck sitting time, give yourself some love, give yourself some bodily safety, and push yourself out of bed a little bit if you need it. If you're like me and you're a fighter and an overdoer, make sure you're taking your rest days as well. But also use it. Don't hate your momentum, right? It's a part of you. Use it for this purpose. You can still feel into this uncomfortability without burning yourself out, right? And I think that's the key is look into what your default pattern is. Is it fight or flight or freeze? And know how that shows up for you when you start to get out of your comfort zone. So if you're on this mixed voice journey, as soon as you start to get into that wobbly place, what does your default want to say, right? What does your gremlin pop on your shoulder and go? Mine goes, just fight through it, right? Some people, if they're a fighter, they go, oh, nope, that wasn't it, and they stop. So that is a thing that you need to know about yourself and unshame about yourself. It's okay. It's not a problem. But know that about yourself and give yourself what is good to you as well as good for you. So keep that in mind. Don't not do because you don't think it's going to be how you want it to be, right? This is what muck sitting is all about. Sitting in the muck of this little space between what's comfortable and what's uncomfortable. So let yourself sit there for a little longer than you think. And I promise you, you will come out on the other side of that going, oh, that was what the muck felt like. What was I waiting for this whole time, right? So whatever you're working on in your voice, whether it's this mixed voice thing or whether it is working on belting a little more healthily or a little louder, maybe you're trying to find some volume in your voice and it feels a little scary. Find a place where you feel safe. Find people you feel safe with to sing loudly around. Feel that environment first. Make sure you are safe. And then sit in that muck. Sit in that uncomfortability. Make it a daily 5 to 10 minute practice. And then muck sitting will feel like no problem, right? Anytime you come up against a new challenge, you'll be like, oh, I got this. I've sat in that muck before. This muck, probably no different, right? Sorry I said muck so much. It's such a weird word. So yeah, just hanging out in that weird, uncomfortable place where you're gonna make weird noises is very important. It's not fun, but also you can make it fun, right? You can make weird noises. You can frame them to be silly and stupid and fun, and they don't have to be bad or wrong or gross like we would react to them normally in most company, you know? Imagine like you're just like making sounds with a kid, you know? To entertain a baby, you're gonna make weird noises. So pretend like you're just trying to make a baby laugh, right? And then it doesn't feel so wrong anymore, right? Feels pretty good. Feels pretty fun. I recommend that with everything in singing. Just let yourself feel stupid. Let yourself feel silly and ridiculous. And make sure you're around people that you feel safe to do that with. If you don't have those people, make your car your studio. If you don't have a car, go take a walk. Go for a hike and sing where there's nobody around, you know? Make sure you are giving yourself an environment where sitting in the muck feels okay, feels safe. It's not going to be comfortable, remember, because that's what the muck is all about. You're in this slightly outside of your comfort zone space. It's not going to be comfortable, but at least you have to be safe about it, right? And this is why we are derailing from the hustle culture, because that mentality is just like, suck it up and do it no matter how you're feeling. That's not really how I want to live my life, you know? We have to feel safe. We have to treat ourselves well. We have to not burn out. So make sure you're giving yourself what you need. And I love you and I appreciate you. And hope you're having a lovely Tuesday. And hope you are doing a little sitting in the uncomfortability place with your voice right now. And I hope you are also having fun with your voice right now. It can be both at the same time. I promise. Yeah, if you have any questions about specific things, specific techniques, specific things you want to work on, specific nervous system things, I'm here for you. I'm here to answer any questions you may have. And I'm just about to pop off. Sorry if you just got here, but I got to go to another session. But I love y'all very much. And new Vocal Magic cohort is coming this summer, so stay tuned for that. If you are in my Vocal Magic, if you're in my graduates program, Vocal Magic 2 is starting next week. So let me know ASAP, okay? I love y'all very much. Thank you. Have a lovely day, and I'll see you very soon. Goodbye.